Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the terrifying mechanics of a supernatural evacuation gone horribly wrong. We're going to deconstruct a chilling sequence of events and figure out exactly how a seemingly flawless military survival plan was just completely shattered from the inside out. We're looking at a localized disaster involving a family, an evacuation train, and an entity known only as the Black Tornado. So get ready because the rules of this world are incredibly strict, and honestly, the cost of breaking them is fatal. Imagine, just for a second, sitting in pitch black and hearing someone whisper, "Come see, everything is so beautiful outside. Just take off your blindfold." Right before an entire coach of people meets their end. It's chilling, right? Well, in the reality of our source material, human curiosity is literally weaponized. The simple, everyday act of looking at something beautiful means absolute, certain death. So your primary rule of survival here? Absolute sensory deprivation. You literally have to shut your eyes to stay alive. Section 1. The threat. Understanding the Kala Bawander. To wrap our heads around the disaster that unfolded on that train, we first need to look at the incredibly high-stakes rules governing this supernatural antagonist. This brings us to our primary physical threat, the Kala Bawander, or Black Tornado. Now, this isn't your average weather event. It's a supernatural force. If you look at it with your bare eyes, the psychological overwhelming is so severe that you instantly take your own life. Because of this, the government's only defense is relocating citizens to safe zones while they are completely blindfolded. It creates this absolutely terrifying reality where your one and only chance of survival is hiding in pure darkness. But the real horror actually lies in the secondary threat. It's called the Chalya. A Chalya is essentially an infected human. The twist here is that they don't die. Instead, they become an agent for the tornado itself. Their entire purpose becomes acting as a deceptive lure, gently and happily tricking other survivors into taking off their blindfolds. In fact, in the source material, we see a father named Vijay refusing to help a desperate man begging for a ride. Why? Simply because he can't verify if the man is a survivor or a Chalya trying to trick his family. It makes trusting your own friends and family completely impossible. Now, this core infection mechanic is really the absolute crux of this explainer. Notice this comparison here. Direct eye contact kills you, but indirect viewing, looking at the tornado through glass, reflections, mirrors, or digital screens like CCTV, that is what turns you into a monster, a Chalya. And this very specific detail about indirect viewing, well, that's exactly what sets up the tragedy we're about to unpack. Section 2. Train Protocol, Surviving the 3-Hour Journey. Let's look at the military's evacuation plan and see exactly how they attempted to transport an entire village while completely blind. The logistics of moving hundreds of sightless people safely are fascinating. The military instituted a super strict 4-step protocol for this 3-hour train ride. Notice how they use a rhythmic rule of tension here. First, blindfolds, obviously for safety. Second, bells tied around the neck. Now, this is a genius, low-tech auditory alarm system. If you can't see, you absolutely must hear. Third, complete stillness. Nobody is allowed to leave their seat. And finally, fourth, keeping all doors and windows shut. It's an airtight plan perfectly designed to maintain order in the dark. Section 3. The Train Massacre. A perfect plan fails. Because, as we'll see, even the most airtight protocols have vulnerabilities. Halfway through the journey, the train violently screeches to a halt. That sudden stop, followed by the ringing of dropped bells on the floor, signals a total massacre. The train driver goes back to investigate and, wow, he finds an absolute nightmare scenario. The emergency safety chains were pulled, the doors were thrown wide open, and an entire coach of people had taken off their blindfolds, resulting in mass suicide. The eerie auditory cue of those bells resting silently on the seats meant only one thing. A Chalya was somehow hiding among the blindfolded survivors, whispering to them about how beautiful the outside world was. So, this brings us to the crucial puzzle of our explainer. If the train has absolutely no glass windows, which, remember, the military specifically designed to prevent any reflections or indirect viewing of the tornado, how did a passenger get infected during the ride? Seriously, how did the monster get inside a locked box? Section 4. The Investigation. Tracing the infection. When the train finally arrives at the transfer station, a blind army officer takes charge of the investigation. He immediately suspects a missing little boy named Shintu, leading to a really tense deconstruction of the family's journey. Let's look at the facts the officer gathers. First off, the father, Vijay, confirms they drove to the station in an open-top Jeep with no windshield. Okay, so no glass there.
Second, the train itself is completely windowless, so no reflections there either. Third, Chintu was the one actually found wandering the aisles, pulling the emergency chains, and opening the doors. So, doing the process of elimination, the crucial point the officer realizes is that Chintu couldn't have been infected on the train, and he couldn't have been infected in the Jeep. The breach absolutely had to have happened earlier.
And right here is the massive plot twist, the incredible dramatic irony we all missed at the very beginning of the source material. Before they even left their house, Vijay needed help backing the Jeep out while wearing his blindfold. So Chintu offered to guide his dad by doing something that seemed totally innocent. He looked at the live CCTV feed of their driveway. By looking at that digital screen, Chintu indirectly viewed the black tornado. He was infected in his own home, by his own home security system, long before he ever stepped foot on that train. It really goes to show how our everyday security technology, the very things meant to protect us, can unexpectedly become a fatal vulnerability.
Section 5. The Standoff. The Cable Car Confrontation. This horrifying revelation leads us straight to the ultimate claustrophobic showdown. To reach the absolute safe zone, the survivors must take a suspended cable car over a dense jungle, and the officer takes the infected boy, Chintu, alone in one of these cars.
Inside the cable car, the Chalya inside Chintu tries its absolute best trick. It begs the officer to take off his dark glasses, promising that the world outside is unfathomably beautiful. But the entity makes a fatal miscalculation here. The officer reveals the horrifying brilliance of his ultimate, immune sacrifice. He isn't just blindfolded. As a soldier doing literally whatever it takes to survive and protect, he had physically removed his own eyes. The Chalya's psychological tricks are just utterly powerless against someone who has permanently eliminated their capacity to see. As the cable car crosses over the dense jungle, we learn a vital geographical rule about the black tornado. The physical barrier of the thick, ancient forest actually breaks the signal. The massive storms simply cannot traverse the dense tree line. And once that signal is severed, the supernatural connection drops, completely deactivating the Chalya state and saving the little boy's life. He's left simply passed out from exhaustion.
It's a brilliant, terrifying system of rules that the military used to barely survive this encounter. We've seen how even the most perfect protocols can be completely undone by just a single glowing screen in a living room. But this entire explainer leaves us with one chilling final thought. The forest provides a boundary for now, but nature adapts, right? If this supernatural force is currently stopped by a line of trees, what happens if it learns to cross that barrier tomorrow? How long can humanity really survive by just hiding in the dark? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep your eyes, well, maybe keep them safely closed for now.